Welcome to Sex with Rebecca, a show geared towards relationships and sexuality that'll help you enjoy your relationships more than you ever thought possible. Today, we'll be talking about reawakening your sexuality with a very special guest, sex coach Carlyle Jansen, a trailblazer in promoting healthy sexuality. Welcome, Carlyle.
Hello.
It's always such a great pleasure. Have so much fun with you.
Oh, it's always fun.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your words of wisdom with us again. Carlyle, the best way to start awakening our sexuality is by connecting with our sexual selves. Can you start off the discussion by commenting on that?
Absolutely. So you have to know yourself before you're going to be able to share that with somebody else to the full extent. So knowing your own body, knowing what your pleasures are, sometimes those change, and kind of getting a sense of what feels good to me, what do I want differently, then you can convey that to a partner and you'll feel more confident when you go into having sex with a partner, even just flirting with a partner.
I think that's such a valid point, because lots of people, they'll say, they'll expect their partner to figure out how to get them off, and they don't know how to get themselves off. And how ridiculous is that? Because we're all very, very different. So I'm so glad you started off with that. How does one gain that sexual confidence outside of some of the fabulous workshops you offer at Good for Her?
So ways to gain it is spending time on your own and looking at yourself in the mirror. And really looking at what do you appreciate, what do you love. There might be things you don't like so much. Don't focus on those, but send some love to those areas and make sure that those parts of your body know that you're there for them, and try and embrace your body. So many people I know who are older and they look back at younger photos and they're like, I was actually really hot back then.
I only didn't know it back then.
Right, that's just it, right? And we don't appreciate ourselves. So look for what's good and dress in ways that make you feel sexy. Not just what's on the billboards, but what looks good on you that you feel good in.
It's embracing your body. You know, I used to watch the show How to Look Good Naked, and what I loved about the host was he never put anyone down and said, well, let's hide this, let's hide that. He would say, let's accentuate this. And what makes this feel good? And I think that's just it. Now, I mentioned the workshops. So can you tell us what some of the popular ones are and some of the reasons that people sign up for those? Because I know people always people book for those well ahead of time. Yeah,
well, yours is very popular, How to Drive Your Man Wild. And so workshops like that are about skills, because we don't know how to do a lot of things, and if we watch porn, we aren't necessarily going to learn good techniques. So learning different skills, learning about kink, learning about orgasms in your body, learning how to keep the relationship alive. All of those things are ways that you can, in some ways, learn what you didn't know you didn't know.
Absolutely, because sometimes I think, how hot is that? I had no idea.
Right.
But I think people, they feel more confident when they get that kind of instruction. I've had many clients who were petrified of, let's say, oral sex, and I said, go to Carlyle's workshop on giving head, and they've come back, and they felt really, really confident. So I think it's about, what do I want to learn? And like you said, you'll learn things that you didn't even know you wanted to learn. So it's all good. I guess it all ties into feeling sexual in myriad ways, how we feel about ourselves. What about for our partner? How can we sort of feel sexy for our partner? Because that's the place, especially women, they start to feel really self-conscious.
Yeah, and so we need to cultivate that desire. We need to have dates, get dressed up when you go out on a date.
Absolutely.
Right? No sweatpants. Right, dress up for each other.
That, right? Yeah.
And take pride in looking good, and take pride in making yourself the best that you can be, and treat yourself to enjoying each other and making sure that you celebrate that, and talking to your partner about what your desires are.
Absolutely. And keeping it sensual, teasing each other.
Absolutely.
I did a workshop for you guys last night, and one of the things we were talking about was how people stop kissing. And it's so sensual, and once we start making love, we sort of do away with kissing. But that's all really important stuff. Great stuff, Carlyle. Still ahead, finding time, desire, and energy for sex once we're starting to feel sexy again. So don't you dare go anywhere. Welcome back to Sex with Rebecca, a show where we bring you expert advice on important matters to help your relationships be more intimate, exciting, and emotionally fulfilling. In this segment, we'll be talking about finding time, desire, and energy for sex with our very special guest, sex coach Carlyle Jansen. Carl, one of the things that both you and I hear a lot is that despite the best of intentions, somehow sex ends up on the back burner for a lot of couples, and everything else seems to slip ahead of it, including being glued to electronics. So can you comment on how to make sex a priority?
I mean, you have to decide that it's a priority. And for some couples, it's not. It's a bit tricky when one person wants it and the other one doesn't. But, you know, if you decide that this is an important thing, then you need to schedule it and make it a priority, just like doing the laundry or anything else. And I think it's something that we need to value in our partner and also not take for granted that it's just going to be there if we let it go. Which is why I think when you start a new relationship, everything's new, everything's exciting, you want to put energy into that relationship. But when it comes to our current relationship, sometimes and a little bit of energy has a lot of payoff.
Absolutely. Sometimes people just expect it to coast along. Like you wouldn't do that to your garden. It'll grow weeds, and before you know it, where did the garden go? So I think I also like that you said that it's a decision, just like being happy versus being miserable. It's a decision. So you decide that this is important, and we're going to do this, and we're going to make time for it. And you know, all the people that say, well, if it's not spontaneous, you know, but nowadays, who has time for that, right?
Well, and that's just it, is that we can make the time. And,
absolutely.
And we can plan for spontaneity. So we can have it in our minds, on Sunday night I'm going to seduce, or I'm going to do this fun little thing. Because the reality is that you're probably not going to get to the dentist or have dinner with your sister or do other fun, you know, go and see a play unless you plan it. And the same thing goes with sex. Sometimes you need to plan it, which does not take away the fun. It gives you an opportunity to plan something extra fun and have a good time.
Right. It's like, you know, whether you're planning a golf game or you're going to an exquisite restaurant, you have to plan ahead. And then you also look forward to it. So my definition of spontaneity is you set aside time and see where it takes you spontaneously. Okay, so how about, we're talking about setting aside time and not expecting it to happen automatically. Do you have any hints on how to kind of introduce it to a partner who's not willing to do that?
That's always really tricky, and I think it's about being honest about what's important to me, and that I love you and I find you really sexy, and I want to talk. I want to have a fulfilling sexual relationship, and sort of deciding that this is something that we want to work on together. That you're not. I'm not putting you down. I'm not saying this is for you to work on your own, that we're a team and we can work on this together, and building that desire. So what is it that you want to do? What's going to turn you on? Because, you know, if you have a lousy meal at a restaurant, are you excited to go back to the restaurant? Not so much. So how am I going to have good sex, which is going to then make me more interested in having sex again?
And if you're asking your partner, what would you like? I mean, they're going to get excited. They're not going to get, oh, you know, this again. They're going to get very excited that you actually care. What do I like? And it's also, it opens up that conversation that sometimes that people are afraid of having. Of course, this segment wouldn't be complete without discussing reawakening desire, because feeling sexy and even planning something at the right time won't work if you're not feeling desire for a partner. So maybe you can give us a quick comment on that. So, you know, we've talked about how to engage the partner, and we've talked about feeling sexy ourselves, but how do we feel sexy around a partner? Because women in particular, they're so self-conscious.
Right. Yes. So I think that we need to decide what is it that we want to do, and tell your partner, this is what I want to do. And that confidence is what's so sexy, and that confidence is really infectious, both for ourselves as well as for our partner. What is it that I want to do, and what do I want you to do to me? Because sometimes asking for what we want is what's going to awaken the desire in both of us. And it's hard for us to do that. Sometimes we feel self-conscious. Sometimes we feel it's not, you know, nice girls don't do that kind of thing. And so that's why sometimes I say, like, email it, write it in a note, you know, whisper it, whatever it is that helps you to communicate that, because I find that that's what starts starts to generate it.
A little sexy text, this is what I'd like you to do to me tonight, or this is what I'd like to do to you.
Yeah.
I think that's why 50 Shades took off, was because he was very precise in what he wanted to do, and he paid a lot of attention to the detail. Great information, Carlyle. When we return, we'll be getting into sexual satisfaction, so do stay with us if you want to feel satisfied, that is. Welcome back to Sex with Rebecca, a show geared towards making your relationships the best that they can be, both in and out of the bedroom. In this segment, we'll be talking about sexual satisfaction with sex coach and one of our favorite guests, Carlyle Jansen. Carlyle, you and I see people who say that they're no longer feeling sexually satisfied. What are some of the reasons for that?
Often it's because you're not getting the pleasure that you want. Sometimes it's about frequency. So it seems as though for people to be sexually satisfied, the optimal frequency is about once a week. 3 times a week doesn't get you much more satisfaction, but the quality then becomes important. And knowing that I'm feeling pleasure, you're feeling pleasure, that we're exploring new things, that we're growing together, that it's not robotic.
It's not robotic. Yeah, that's what it's about. Because for a lot of people also, what satisfied you 2 months or 2 years ago is not going to do it for you anymore, because your brain habituates, your body changes. So kind of keeping it fresh.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the brain habituates, so what felt good once doesn't any longer. What's a good way to give our sexual brains a little jolt for greater satisfaction?
So we need to break out of our routine. Even which way you're facing on the bed can be just a little bit different. Maybe saying something new. You don't have to go out and buy, a whole bunch of new toys, try all these different gymnastic sexual positions.
Which gets harder as you get older, trust me.
Dressing up in outfits. I mean, those are all great. But just shifting it a little bit, taking a little bit of a risk, trying something a little bit new that just pushes you a little bit, so that you're not kind of following the same old, like, oh, this works, and then that works, and then that works, and then you orgasm, then I orgasm, then we fall asleep, right? And sometimes I find it's about curiosity. Finding something new. Is there a little freckle that you didn't notice before? Does your partner respond to your touch a little bit differently? So how can you make love as though you've never made love with this person again? Rediscover them.
Of course, the more satisfied we are, the likely we are to make sure that sex is center stage versus sitting on that back burner we talked about. Because outside of being a lot of fun, sex is important than most people realize, a lot more important. So can you please discuss some of the reasons that sex is so important?
Sure. So one of them is there's a use it or lose it. So if you stop that part of your body engaging, keeping that fire going, sometimes it becomes harder to get things going down the road. And then for women in particular, we want blood flow into that area.
Yes.
And that will ensure that the lining of the vagina stays healthy and is less likely to tear. Orgasms are one way, the funnest way to do your Kegel exercises and strengthen your pelvic floor, which is of course great for preventing incontinence. And for men, just making sure that your penis responds to pleasure and is used to it, right? Is really helpful for keeping that blood flow going. I mean, it's the funnest way to have exercise.
Why the heck not? That's why I always have fun having you in the studio. Great stuff, Carlyle. How about some final tips on re-energizing our sexuality before we say goodnight?
Yeah. So, one of the things the study by Dr. Peggy Kleinplatz about sexual function, and that we focus so much on, what do we not want, but what do we want? And the thing that I find makes the biggest difference is, are you taking risks? Are you being honest about what you like, what you don't like? We're always keeping little secrets about, like, oh, that thing, but how do I say that I don't really like it? Are you being genuine? Are you open to new things? Because that's where the adventures happen. That's where the learning happens. That's where the connection happens. And so even if you're having intercourse or doing what you normally do, if you inject it with a sense of adventure, of trying something new, of being authentic, it's going to feel that much better, and you're going to want to have it more often, and you're going to feel much more satisfied.
Yeah, and there's that element of curiosity as well.
Oh, curiosity.
And there's so many people, they're afraid of giving feedback because they think their partner's ego is very fragile. I mean, granted, there is a way of giving feedback.
Sure.
But it is really, really important. Otherwise, how are you going to be on the same page?
Absolutely. And curiosity is what keeps us alive and keeps us going.
Absolutely.
That's what sparks our interest. So remain curious.
Well, thanks for a sparking hot interview. Thank you so much, Carlyle, for all your remarkable insights, and viewers for joining us. Be sure to join us again, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on missed episodes, to watch your favorite shows again, and to access great tips for keeping it hot and intimate. I'm Rebecca Rosenblatt, your host, wishing you happy, healthy, and passionate relationships. Until next time.